The crystalline spires of Research Station Epsilon glowed with an eerie blue light as Scout Naira Vix adjusted her biosensors for the fourth time. Something about this human facility disrupted her carefully calibrated equipment, and she found the irregularity deeply unsettling. 20 cycles of training hadn't prepared her for the chaos that seemed to permeate every human structure. The station's lead scientist, Thomas Reed, stood before her, his expression unreadable to her alien sensibilities. His vital signs, however, told a clear story of contained excitement and curiosity. Humans were always so emotional. Your presence here violates 3 separate treaties, Naira stated, her translator converting her harmonic speech into human standard. The Andromeda Conclave has restricted this sector for detailed study. Thomas smiled, a gesture she had learned meant either pleasure or challenge. In this case, she suspected the latter. Actually, Scout Vix, our presence here is perfectly legal under Section 7 of the Rigel Accords. We're studying the same anomaly your people are so interested in. The mention of the anomaly sent a ripple through Naira's sensory filaments. The Conclave had classified all information about the strange energy readings emanating from this sector. How did the humans know? Before she could respond, the station's warning systems blared to life. The crystalline walls pulsed with urgent red light, and Naira's sensors detected massive energy fluctuations throughout the structure. That's impossible, Thomas muttered, rushing to a nearby console. The anomaly's never shown this level of activity before. Naira moved to another terminal, her specialized appendages interfacing directly with the human technology. The readings confirmed her worst fears. The energy signature is becoming unstable. Your primitive containment systems can't handle this level of quantum displacement. Primitive? Thomas's voice carried a note of challenge. Our primitive systems have been successfully monitoring the anomaly for months while your people were still trying to classify it. The floor beneath them trembled, and Naira's sensors detected structural integrity failing in the lower levels. We don't have time for this debate. The station's containment field is collapsing. To her surprise, Thomas was already moving, his actions preceding her warning. His human instincts, while scientifically inferior to her calculated responses, had somehow anticipated the danger. We need to reach the primary control room, he said, grabbing a portable research terminal. The anomaly's response patterns changed when we introduced certain frequencies. If we can replicate that effect. Another tremor rocked the station, stronger this time. Naira's filaments detected microfractures spreading through the crystalline structure. Her training called for immediate evacuation, but something in Thomas's voice made her hesitate. The human's vital signs showed fear, yes, but also a peculiar kind of focus she had never observed before. Your species' tendency to improvise solutions is precisely why the Conclave restricts human expansion, she said, even as she found herself moving to assist him. Controlled, systematic responses are essential when dealing with unknown phenomena. Thomas didn't look up from his work, his fingers flying over the console. You know what else is unknown, Scout Vix? The effect of your people's controlled approach on the anomaly's development. We've been watching. Every time your survey ships appear, the energy patterns shift. It's like it's learning. Adapting to your predictable responses. The implications sent another ripple through Naira's sensory filaments. If he was right. Impossible. Our methods are perfect. Refined through millennia of scientific advancement. Perfect isn't always better, Thomas said, and Naira detected an unusual spike in his biochemical readings. Sometimes chaos is exactly what you need. Before she could argue, the anomaly's energy signature suddenly spiked. Naira's sensors screamed warnings as reality itself seemed to bend around them. In that moment, she witnessed something that would challenge everything she believed about human unpredictability. Thomas moved with impossible speed, his body responding to the danger before her advanced warning systems could even process it. He grabbed her arm, pulling her away from the console just as a beam of pure energy lanced through the space where she had been standing. "How?" she demanded, her usual composure shaken. "Your neural response time shouldn't allow for such rapid reaction." "Instinct," he said, already moving them toward a secondary control station. "Something your perfect evolution seems to have engineered out. Sometimes you need to feel rather than think." As alarms blared and reality warped around them, Naira found herself facing a troubling question: what if the humans' chaotic, instinct-driven approach wasn't a weakness after all? What if it was exactly what they needed to understand the impossible phenomenon that threatened both their species? A massive surge of energy from the anomaly made the decision for them. As the station's systems began to fail catastrophically, Naira realized she would have to trust in something beyond logic to survive what was coming. The real question was, could she learn to embrace chaos before it was too late? The emergency bunker beneath Research Station Epsilon hummed with residual energy from the anomaly's last surge. Naira's sensory filaments detected trace particles unlike anything in the Conclave's vast databases. Beside her, Thomas Reed examined readings on his portable terminal, his vital signs showing a mix of exhaustion and what humans called excitement. "The energy signature is unlike anything we've encountered," she said, her translator struggling to find human words for the complex harmonics she detected. "It's as if the laws of physics themselves are being rewritten." "Not rewritten," Thomas corrected, showing her his screen. "Enhanced. Look at these patterns. The anomaly isn't changing the rules, it's revealing new ones." Naira's secondary membrane flickered in surprise as she processed the data. The human's crude instruments had detected something her advanced sensors missed, a recurring pattern in the quantum fluctuations, like a heartbeat at the atomic level. "Impossible," she whispered, but her own readings confirmed it. "These signatures, they match evolutionary patterns found in both our species' genetic codes." Thomas nodded, his heart rate elevating with what she now recognized as scientific thrill. "It's not just matching them, it's accelerating them. Every surge creates microscopic changes in organic matter within its range. Your people classified this sector for study because you detected unusual developments in local life forms, didn't you?" Before Naira could respond, her emergency beacon activated. A priority message from the Conclave scrolled across her neural interface: "Terminate investigation. Destroy all data. Return immediately." She hesitated, her training demanding immediate compliance while something else, something almost like human instinct, told her to wait. Thomas noticed her tension. "Let me guess," he said quietly. "Your superiors want you to shut this down. How did you?" "Because mine sent the same order an hour ago." He showed her his terminal again, displaying an encrypted message from Earth Command. "Someone doesn't want us figuring this out. The question is, why?" A distant rumble shook the bunker. Naira's sensors detected another energy surge building, but this one was different. More focused. More deliberate. "It's evolving," she realized, her sensory filaments extending to their full length. "The anomaly isn't just affecting other life forms, it's changing itself." Thomas was already moving, gathering equipment with practiced efficiency. "We need to reach the primary research lab. All our core data is stored there, including samples from the first contact with the anomaly." "The Conclave's orders will get us both killed if we follow them blindly," he interrupted. "You've seen the data, Naira. This isn't just about our species anymore. Something is happening to the fundamental fabric of life itself." Another tremor, stronger this time. Naira's sensors detected structural changes in the very atoms of the bunker's walls. The anomaly's influence was spreading, transforming matter at the quantum level. "The lab is 3 levels up," she said, making her decision. "Through corridors that are probably molecularly unstable by now." Thomas grinned, an expression she was beginning to associate with imminent danger. Good thing you have a primitive human's instincts to help guide you through the chaos. As they made their way through the transforming station, Naira found herself adapting to Thomas's unpredictable movement patterns. His apparent randomness actually followed its own kind of logic, responding to subtle environmental cues her sensors sometimes missed. They reached the lab's entrance to find the door partially fused with its frame, the metal flowing like liquid at a molecular level. Thomas immediately began looking for alternate routes, but Naira's attention was caught by something else. Through the door's observation window, she saw the impossible. The lab's biological samples, secured in quantum-locked stasis fields, were changing. Evolving. But not randomly. Each transformation seemed to build on the last, creating something new yet strangely familiar. "Thomas," she called, her translator struggling to convey her awe. "I don't think the anomaly is a natural phenomenon. This level of coordination, these specific patterns." She turned to face him, her sensory filaments vibrating with revelation. Someone engineered this. Created it deliberately. "But why?" he asked, moving to study the samples. "What's the purpose?" Before Naira could respond, every screen in the lab activated simultaneously. Streams of data flowed across them, not in human language or conclave harmonics, but in a code that seemed to combine elements of both. It's not just engineering evolution, Naira realized, her scientific training warring with the impossible implications. It's trying to communicate. To bridge the gap between our species. As if in response, the anomaly's energy surged again, and both their neural interfaces activated with a message that would change everything. Convergence protocol initiated. Phase 2 beginning. In that moment, as reality itself seemed to shift around them, Naira understood why both their governments wanted this discovery buried. The anomaly wasn't just changing life, it was directing it. Guiding it towards some predetermined goal. The question was, what would humanity and the conclave become when that goal was reached? Time behaved strangely in the transformed laboratory. Naira's chronometers registered hours passing, but the subtle quantum changes happening around them suggested years of evolution compressed into moments. She watched, fascinated, as Thomas's cells responded to the anomaly's influence, microscopic adaptations occurring in real time. "Your genetic structure," she observed, her sensors detecting the changes. "It's becoming more efficient. But not like conclave engineering. This is something entirely new." Thomas examined his own readings, his modified research equipment now capable of detecting quantum-level changes. "Not just mine. Look at your cellular structure. The anomaly is affecting both our species, but differently. It's like it's harmonizing us." A holographic display materialized in the center of the lab, its technology neither human nor conclave in origin. Complex geometric patterns shifted and flowed, forming what Naira recognized as a fusion of DNA structures from both their species. "These patterns," Thomas said, his voice filled with wonder. "They're not random mutations. They're deliberate adjustments, creating compatible evolutionary paths for different species." Naira's sensory filaments detected a new frequency emanating from the anomaly. The convergence protocol, it's not just affecting biology. It's altering the fundamental ways our species process reality. As if to demonstrate, she found herself perceiving subtle emotional cues from Thomas that her species had never been capable of detecting before. Similarly, she noticed him responding to harmonic frequencies that should have been beyond human perception. The lab's security systems suddenly activated, sealing them inside. Through the reinforced windows, they could see military units approaching, both human and conclave forces working in unprecedented cooperation. "They're not here to help," Thomas said, his newly enhanced senses picking up hostile intentions. "Both our governments want this contained. The implications of directed evolution would destabilize everything," Naira finished. "The conclave's entire social structure is built on controlled biological advancement. And humanity would have to accept that our cherished randomness might not be so random after all. Thomas moved to a secondary console, his movements displaying a grace that seemed to blend human instinct with conclave precision. We need to understand what this thing wants before they shut it down. The anomaly's energy patterns shifted again, and suddenly Naira understood something that her purely logical mind would have missed before. It's not about what it wants, she said, watching the DNA patterns swirl. It's about what we could become. Together. Warning klaxons blared as the joint military force began cutting through the lab's outer doors. But their interference triggered something in the anomaly. The holographic display expanded, filling the room with images of countless worlds, countless species, all connected by similar patterns of guided evolution. We're not the first, Thomas realized, his enhanced perception matching Naira's. This is some kind of evolutionary archive. A record of how different species came together. Naira's sensors detected quantum changes accelerating throughout the station. Not just a record. A blueprint. Each pair of species in the archive followed a similar pattern of convergence, but with unique variations. The anomaly doesn't enforce a single path, it creates possibilities. The outer doors began to glow as cutting beams intensified. They had minutes at most. The question is, Thomas said, his transformed biology now allowing him to interface directly with some of the alien technology, do we try to stop this evolution, or do we become part of it? Before Naira could respond, the anomaly itself seemed to answer. The holographic display focused on their two species specifically, showing countless potential futures, some beautiful, some terrifying, all transformative. The military forces, Naira said, her enhanced perception detecting their approach from multiple angles. They don't understand. They think they're preventing chaos, but they're actually interfering with a natural process. Natural? Thomas raised an eyebrow, a gesture Naira could now understand intimately. There's nothing natural about engineered evolution. Isn't there? She gestured at the display. Look at the pattern. Every species eventually reaches this point, the ability to guide their own evolution. We're not being controlled, we're being invited to take the next step. The doors began to buckle as Thomas processed this. Through their enhanced connection, Naira could sense him reaching the same conclusion she had. The anomaly wasn't a threat to be contained. It was a threshold to be crossed. They'll be through those doors in 2 minutes, he said, his transformed biology calculating the precise time automatically. We need to make a decision. Once the military takes control. There won't be a decision to make, Naira finished. She moved to the central console, her transformed appendages interfacing seamlessly with the hybrid technology. The question is, are we ready for what comes next? Thomas joined her, their enhanced biologies working in perfect synchronization. Probably not, he said with a very human smile. But when has any species ever been ready for evolution? As the doors finally began to give way, they initiated a sequence that would change both their civilizations forever. The anomaly's energy surged one final time, but this time, they weren't just observing the transformation. They were becoming part of it. Light pulsed through Research Station Epsilon in waves of impossible color as the transformation took hold. Naira and Thomas stood at the center of the storm, their enhanced biologies processing changes that should have taken millennia to evolve. Through the quantum barrier they'd erected, they could see the military forces falling back, overwhelmed by the cascading waves of evolutionary energy. The station's molecular structure is completely reorganizing, Thomas observed, his voice carrying harmonics that would have been impossible for a human throat hours ago. It's becoming some kind of living technology. Naira's transformed sensory filaments detected patterns within patterns, layers of information that even her advanced conclave training hadn't prepared her for. The anomaly isn't just changing us, it's using us as a template. Our choice to cooperate, to trust each other despite our differences. is being encoded into the very structure of local spacetime, Thomas finished, understanding flowing between them through newly evolved neural pathways. We're becoming a blueprint for others to follow. The holographic archive expanded around them, showing countless variations of their potential future. But now they could see something their previous forms had missed: subtle connections between all the species pairs, creating a vast network of evolutionary advancement. The military units are regrouping, Naira reported, her senses extending far beyond the station's walls. Both our governments are preparing to use quantum weaponry to contain this transformation. Thomas interfaced with the station's evolved systems, his hybrid biology working in perfect sync with the living technology. They don't understand. Trying to stop this process now would be like. He searched for an analogy that bridged their cultures, like trying to prevent a star from going supernova by shooting at it. A massive surge of energy from their pursuers struck the quantum barrier. The shield held, but Naira detected something troubling in its harmonics. The barrier is adapting to their attacks, learning from them. If we're not careful, our defenses might evolve into weapons. And prove everyone's fears right, Thomas said grimly. Through their connection, Naira felt his deep concern. Evolution without wisdom, power without understanding, it could lead to exactly the kind of catastrophe both their governments feared. The holographic display shifted, responding to their thoughts. It showed similar moments from other worlds, points where evolved species had to choose between domination and cooperation, between forcing their transformation on others and finding ways to share it safely. We need to prove them wrong, Naira said, her transformed mind racing through possibilities at quantum speed. Show them that this isn't about power or control. It's about. She paused, grasping for a concept that her old self would have dismissed as illogical. Growth, Thomas supplied. Not just biological, but cultural. Spiritual, even. He smiled at her surprise. Hey, who says evolved beings can't appreciate a little mysticism? Another blast rocked the barrier, but this time Naira detected something different in the attack pattern. Some of them are changing too, she realized. The soldiers closest to the transformation field, their biology is starting to respond to the anomaly's influence. Thomas checked the readings, his hybrid senses confirming her observation. It's offering them the same choice it offered us. Evolution can't be forced, but it can be invited. The holographic archive responded to this revelation, showing them something new. Successful transformations had never been limited to just two individuals. The process required pioneers, yes, but true evolutionary advancement only succeeded when entire societies chose to grow together. We need to extend the barrier, Naira said, already interfacing with the station's living systems. Not as a shield, but as a bridge. Show them what's possible without forcing them to accept it. Thomas joined her, their hybrid biologies working in perfect synchronization. A demonstration, not an ultimatum. Through their connection, she felt his joy at the elegant solution. Very diplomatic for a couple of evolutionary rebels. The barrier began to shift, its quantum structure transforming from a defensive wall into something more complex. Waves of possibility radiated outward, carrying not just raw evolutionary energy but understanding, the accumulated wisdom of countless species who had faced this moment before. They're responding, Naira reported, detecting subtle changes in the military forces surrounding them. Not all of them, but enough. Their fear is turning to curiosity. Humanity's greatest strength, Thomas said proudly, then added with a grin, well, one of them anyway. The conclave would say curiosity is a dangerous trait, Naira observed, though her tone carried new harmonics of amusement. The conclave, Thomas pointed out, isn't exactly in a position to judge right now. As if in response to their banter, the station's evolved systems began generating something new, a form of communication that combined conclave harmonics with human emotional subtleties, creating a language that could bridge not just their species, but any species ready to take the next evolutionary step. Looking through their quantum-enhanced senses at the soldiers below, Naira and Thomas could see the moment their message began to take hold. Fear gave way to wonder as the true nature of the transformation became clear. This wasn't an invasion or an attack. It wasn't even really a change. It was an awakening. "They'll have questions," Naira said, watching as the military forces began to stand down. "Both our governments will want explanations, guarantees." "Good thing we've evolved some pretty impressive diplomatic abilities," Thomas replied. Through their connection, she felt his certainty that this was just the beginning. 3 days after what historians would later call the Epsilon event, the transformed research station had become a nexus of unprecedented cooperation between humanity and the Conclave. Where stark metal walls had once stood, crystalline structures pulsed with living light, their architecture reflecting the hybrid nature of its inhabitants. Naira stood in the central chamber, using her evolved senses to monitor the dozens of diplomatic delegations arriving from both civilizations. Beside her, Thomas was explaining the transformation process to a mixed group of human and conclave scientists, his new form allowing him to communicate in both standard speech and complex harmonics simultaneously. "The process cannot be forced," he was saying, "but it can be understood. Each individual's transformation is unique, guided by their own potential and choices. Like a bridge building itself from both ends simultaneously," Naira added, sharing a knowing look with Thomas. Their connection had deepened over the past days, becoming something neither of their species had words to describe. A surge of activity at the station's quantum periphery drew their attention. A new group of arrivals, but these were different, representatives from other species who had detected the evolutionary surge and recognized its significance. "They've experienced this before," Naira realized, her enhanced perception reading complex patterns in their biosignatures. "Not exactly the same way, but they've all faced their own moments of transformation," Thomas finished. "Their own choices between evolution and stagnation." The holographic archive activated, responding to the visitor's presence. It showed countless variations of the same fundamental journey, different species coming together, learning to overcome their biological and cultural differences, choosing to grow together rather than apart. "That's what the anomaly really is," Naira said, understanding flowing through her transformed consciousness. "Not just a tool or a test, but a record of every successful transformation. A guide for species ready to take the next step." One of the conclave diplomats, her neural patterns showing signs of early transformation, approached them. "But what is the purpose?" she asked, her harmonics carrying both fear and fascination. "Where does this evolution lead?" Thomas smiled, his expression carrying layers of meaning that all present could now perceive. "Look around you," he gestured to the gathered representatives of multiple species. "It already has." Through their enhanced senses, Naira and Thomas could see the subtle connections forming between all present, neural patterns shifting, biological frequencies harmonizing, minds opening to new possibilities. The station itself seemed to pulse in response, its living architecture adapting to facilitate these new connections. "Every species eventually reaches a crossroads," Naira explained, sharing the wisdom that had come with her transformation. "A point where they must choose between isolation and connection, between fear of change and embrace of growth. Some call it transcendence," Thomas added, "others call it enlightenment. But those are just words for something more fundamental, the moment when a species realizes it's part of something larger." The holographic archive shifted, showing them something new, glimpses of possibilities even their transformed minds could barely comprehend. Future evolutions, further transformations, deeper connections yet to come. "This isn't the end of our journey," Naira realized, her voice carrying harmonics of wonder. "It's not even really the beginning. It's just the moment we learn to walk together." One of the human diplomats, her cellular structure showing early signs of transformation, raised a practical concern. "But how do we manage this change? How do we prevent chaos as more people begin to transform?" Thomas and Naira exchanged glances, sharing thoughts at quantum speed. By remembering that evolution isn't about becoming something else, Thomas said. It's about becoming more fully what we already are. The transformation doesn't erase our differences, Naira added. It helps us understand them, appreciate them, learn from them. She extended her sensory filaments, letting everyone present feel the truth of her words. I'm still conclave, still believe in order and precision. Thomas is still human, still trusts in instinct and improvisation. We just learned to see how both approaches can work together, Thomas finished. How they've always worked together, even when we couldn't see it. The station's living systems hummed with new energy as more arrivals appeared, scientists, diplomats, soldiers, civilians, all drawn by the possibility of transformation. But now Naira and Thomas could see something their original forms had missed. Each new arrival brought not just their physical presence, but their unique perspective, their particular way of seeing the universe. That's the real evolution, Naira said softly, watching the connections multiply. Not just changing what we are, but understanding who we can become. Together. Thomas took her hand, their transformed biologies resonating in harmony. Ready to help guide the next wave of pioneers? Naira's sensory filaments rippled with what she now recognized as joy. Actually, she said, surprising herself with a very human chuckle, I think I'm looking forward to a little chaos. Above them, the living station pulsed with light, its structure continuing to evolve as it adapted to host more transforming beings. Through their enhanced perception, Naira and Thomas could see the changes rippling outward, not just through space, but through time, through possibility, through the very fabric of reality itself. They had taken the first step. Now it was time to help others find their own path to evolution's edge, and beyond.